Everybody, and welcome back to the Girly Girl Bookworm. So today I have my last 5 reads for you. It feels like forever since I filmed one of these because it's October 10th and I've only read 3 books for October, which means 2 of them were still from September, so this feels like a long time coming. If you hear moaning and groaning, Sydney's hanging out with us today, so she's kind of just moaning and groaning. So if you hear anything, it's probably her. You know what? You seem calmer in my arms. So I'm going to try seeing if I can film with her really quick. And then if that doesn't work out, then I'll put her back down. And hopefully she just ate and stuff like that. So hopefully she will just zonk out in a minute. So the first book that I have to update you on is Bridesmaids by Zara Stoneley, I'm not sure. It seems like she's a very popular author in the UK, which is interesting because it says she's a USA Today best-selling author, but like I've never heard of her. I just randomly pre-ordered this book because I had cupcakes and it was pink and it was about weddings and I thought it would be amazing. So on the cover it says 5 friends, 4 secrets in a wedding that they'll never forget. So I went into this thinking I was going to get all these perspectives from these friends. There's 5 friends that listed on the back. I'm like, this is going to be awesome. This is great. And it turned out to not be so great. It was really boring. We only heard one perspective, which is Jane. And Jane is kind of she's a bridesmaid who like isn't super happy about being a bridesmaid because I don't think that she doesn't really like the bride's like husband to be. And she's kind of having her own issues with the fact too that like she was left at the altar like a year prior. So she's still like not over a lot of things, and so she's got her own drama, and there's other friends too that have their drama, but it just like was really boring, and I found Jane to be really, really whiny. I feel like I wouldn't have minded it if it had changed perspectives, if we had like Rachel's perspective and then Maddie's, and then Sally's. I like combined Maddie and Sally together. And Beth, like I thought we would get each one of their perspectives, and I think it would have made it a way more entertaining and interesting book versus seeing it through Jane's eyes. Because like I said, Jane wasn't that exciting to read from. I didn't really love her romance that she kind of has in this book. And I just, for the most part, was really disappointed by this because I felt like it had the potential of being a really, really good book, but then just like wasn't. So unfortunately, I gave this 3 stars because I found it to be okay. Like it was definitely an okay read. Like once I got about halfway, all of a sudden, like then it like started turning around and I started liking it a lot more. But the very beginning was just, I wasn't having it. What are you doing? Then the next book that I read was Rich People Problems by Kevin Kwan. This is the 3rd and final book in the Crazy Rich Asians series, and I really, really enjoyed this book. I'm really glad that I did not give up on this series. I was not crazy about Crazy Rich Asians, not to sound repetitive, but I didn't really like that one. I found it to be okay. I gave it 3 stars. I found it really hard to get through. And then once I got to the second book and this book, I definitely enjoyed it way more. I felt like also seeing the movie really helped because I was able to kind of put faces to characters' names. There are a ton of characters in Crazy Rich Asians, and it's really hard to keep track of all of them, I feel like, especially because they kind of all intermingle, and some are in one book but not in the other, and like they sometimes will make a reappearance and you're like, wait a minute, who are you? So I found it definitely like there's a lot of people to keep track of, but by the time I got to book 3, I definitely had a better understanding. Oh, there she goes. She's falling asleep. So I'll put her back down. Good girl. So by the time I got to this book, it definitely was so much easier to get a hold of. I did really wish that we had more Rachel and Nick. I felt like the whole premise of the first book was like they're like dating and he's bringing her to Singapore, and I really wanted more of their relationship. Like, yes, I like Astrid. Yes, I like all the side drama, but I would also just like love more Nick and Rachel. Nick was definitely more in this book than I thought he would be, but then there was like no Rachel. So like, I don't know. I wanted more of that. So I did give this 4 stars instead of 5. But I'm glad that I finally continued the series and that I finished it. The next book that I read was Two Can Keep a Secret by Karen M. McManus. I read this book because I really loved One of Us Was Lying, and I was like, well, let's try this one before the sequel to One of Us Is Lying is coming out. It's really kind of confusing because this looks like this should be the sequel to One of Us Is Lying, but it's not. This is actually a standalone book. There's another, the sequel is coming out in January to One of Us Is Lying, and this book was such a miss. It was so all over the place. It's about these twins. They have this mother who is going to rehab, so they have to go to Vermont to live with their grandmother while she's in rehab, and there's a whole bunch of secrets. Their mom is also a twin. Their mom's twin went missing years prior. Like, they don't even speak of her. They don't really know her. And they get to this town, and there's a lot of drama going on. There's a place called, it's like a theme park called Murderland, but now it's called Fright Farm, and years prior a girl was found murdered there, and now things are starting to become like kind of sinister again. When they arrive in town, they find a teacher who was hit and like involved in a hit and run, so he is the dead person in the hit and run situation. And so like all this creepy stuff starts happening, and another girl ends up going missing. So like they're trying to unravel all of these secrets, but it dragged so much. I felt like there was way too many characters. There were way too many plot lines that it tried to like tie together, but like definitely could not be tied together. Of like, who, like even like the twins don't know who their dad is, and all of a sudden like that was kind of a side plot line. Like there's too many side plot lines going on to keep track of what was going on. In the beginning, it was even hard for me to even give a synopsis of this book because I could not tell what was going on. So unfortunately, I gave this 2 stars. The ending just felt like disappointing. Like it kind of like took me by surprise, but then like it also just like tied up too nicely. Like I didn't like this. I would not recommend this. If you like One of Us Is Lying, stick with that one. Don't go to this one. I don't like this one. Then after that, I picked up another sequel. Oh, that wasn't a sequel, but like I had it in my head that we were talking about sequels. Where is my head? I blame mommy brain on this because my brain is like so everywhere right now. I apologize. I picked up What Happened in Paradise by Ellen Hildebrand, and this is the sequel to Winter in Paradise, which came out last fall, and the 3rd book comes out the following fall, so 2020. So I got this technically a little bit early because Book of the Month released it a little bit early. It showed up in my mailbox before the release date. The release date was October 8th, so if you haven't gotten your hands on it yet, definitely do so. But I do have to say that I think this one fell a little bit into second book syndrome. I liked it, but I felt like there was so much buildup and so much drama in the first book that I wanted it to continue in this one. And this one just felt like more like getting to know the characters a lot better. And that the 3rd book will be when we finally start finding all this information. In Winter in Paradise, a woman named Irene finds out that her husband went down to St. John, and he was in a helicopter accident and he passed away, and she had no idea that he was even going to St. John in the first place. And when she gets there, she finds out a whole bunch of secrets, and it's also following a girl named, I can never say her name, it's like where is it? Of course they're not in her chapter. Ayers, Ayers, I can never say her name. So it's following her, and her best friend was in the helicopter with the man, and so her friend is passed away too. So they're both kind of dealing with their grief. They're both finding out secrets and things like that. And it's also, so Irene goes down to St. John's, like I said, to try to figure out a whole bunch of secrets. Her sons come down with her. Lots of drama, lots of intrigue. The first one felt kind of like a mystery, like we were trying to solve it, and then the ending just left you on a huge cliffhanger. And then we got to this book, but this book, like I said, felt very much more character driven. It felt more like we were trying to get to know the other characters that were involved. Yes, some more secrets and clues were revealed from the first book, like in this one, but I felt like it just wasn't enough. Like I wanted more of that, trying to figure out what was going on, and this was more just like them dealing with grief and finding out some more things. So I felt like it was definitely setting up for book 3. So I did still enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars, but I just felt like I wanted more out of it. So unfortunately, this one did not live as much to the hype as the first one did. but I still would definitely recommend it. So if you liked the first one, definitely still read this one. I just felt like it was more of a setup novel for the third book. Ooh, just hit the thing. I'm just a mess today. I apologize. Please don't hit all the thumbs down buttons because I don't know what is going on with me today. And then the last book, which is book number 5, is American Royals by Katharine McGee. I actually had started this book before What Happens in Paradise came, but then I had to pick this up immediately, so I put this one down after like 30 pages to read that one. And after that one was such a character-driven book, I was kind of nervous to go back to this one because this one is also a very character-driven book. So I was going to pick up The Other Woman, and then I decided against it and ended up picking up this one instead. I went back. I was like, you know what? You already started it. Just pick it up and finish it. So I'm so glad that I did. This is a YA novel. I was kind of confused in the beginning if it was a YA, a young adult. Like, YA is young adult. You idiot. What is wrong with me today? If it was going to be a YA or a new adult novel, because the characters are on the older side. They're all like 18 and older. So I was like, maybe it is kind of like a new adult novel. But it really kept everything very PG. She's stretching. It's very PG. There's some kissing. There's some making out. There's talk of sex, but it's more like we jumped in bed, and like the end, like it's more like you just have to assume that it's happening, but they don't explicitly give you any details. So it's definitely a YA novel. Katharine McGee is the author of The 1000th Floor. So if you like The 1000th Floor, I think that you'll really like this one. This one takes place in America as if we had King Washington and Queen Martha instead of President Washington and First Lady Martha. Yeah, so it's as if they were queens and kings in our world, but this is like set in current day time. And it follows 4 different perspectives, which kind of can be a little bit much in the beginning. So it takes a good chunk of the book to actually like kind of get used to who they are first. There's Daphne, so I'm going to save Daphne for last actually. So there's Beatrice, who is the oldest daughter, so she is the princess and she is the heir to the throne. There is Samantha, who is the sister, and there's Jeff. Jeff doesn't have his own perspective, but he's still really important because Jeff and Samantha are twins. There's Nina, who is Samantha's best friend and kind of a commoner for the most part. And then there's Daphne, who is in love with Jeff, and she is now his ex-girlfriend, but obviously wants him back. So it's following those 4 perspectives. Like I said, Jeff doesn't have one, but he still is a very crucial character to the story. And I feel like this is definitely a character-driven story versus a plot-driven story where it just feels like we picked up at one point in their lives and we're just watching what happens kind of thing. It's definitely very drama-y. There's backstabbing and there's romance and there's intrigue. And so there's like a lot of things going on, but it's definitely a character-driven book to the point where like I feel like if I said anything more than that, I would be spoiling it because it's hard to like talk about the direction it was going in without spoiling it. So I have to say that I still really enjoyed this. It actually made me tear up at the end. This is the book 1 in a series. I don't know about how many books there will be. There's just at the back of the book it says that the Royals will continue in fall of 2020. It says American Royals, the story continues. So I know that it's definitely going to be a series. I don't know how long. It could be 2 books. It could be more. And I'm really intrigued to like find out more about this family and what's going to happen to these girls and how everything's going to play out. It definitely still gave me, like I said, a lot of 1000th Floors vibes. So like I said, if you liked that book, you'll like this one. If you didn't like that one, I don't think you'll like this one. I wanted more wittiness to it because in the beginning the prologue is really funny and I loved it and I wanted more of those moments kind of like splashed within the book, and I felt like it was a little bit but not as much, kind of playing on like, yeah, like if you had a present or something, but that would be silly. So like digs at like what really is happening in real life. So like I wish there was more of that. So I did give it 4 stars. I don't think it's going to be a book for everybody, but I still really enjoyed it. So enough of my silly rambling. I apologize for all of my babbling and that babbling. I thought she was sleeping. She's awake. She's awake. Now I know not to film with the baby unless she's sleeping. So I apologize for that, but I hope you guys still enjoyed, and I will see you guys really soon. Bye, everybody.